Metamorphosis, Chapter 1. It took just as much effort to get back to where he had been earlier, but when he lay there signing and was once more watching his legs as they struggled against each other even harder than before, if that was possible, he could think of no way of bringing peace and order to this chaos. He told himself once more that is what not possible for him to stay in bed, and that the most sensible thing to do would be to get free of it in whatever way he could at whatever sacrifice. At the same time, though, he did not forget to remind himself that calm consideration was much better than rushing to desperate conclusions. At times like this, his would direct his eyes to the window and look out as clearly as he could, but unfortunately, even the other side of the narrow street was enveloped in morning fog, and the view had little confidence or cheer to offer him. 7 o'clock already, he said to himself. When the clock struck again 7 o'clock, and there is still a fog like this, and he lay there quietly a while longer, breathing lightly as if he perhaps expected the total stillness to bring things back to their real and natural state. But then he said to himself, before it strikes 7:15, I will definitely have to have got properly out of bed, and by then somebody will have come round from work to ask whatever happened to me, as well as they open up at work before 7 o'clock. And so he set himself to the task of swinging the entire length of his body out of the bed all at the same time. If he succeeded in falling out of the bed in this way and kept his head raised as he did so, he could probably avoid injuring it. He his back seemed to be quite hard, and probably nothing would happen to it falling onto the carpet. His main concern was for the loud noise he was bound to make, and which, even though all the doors was probably raise concern, if not alarm. But it was something that had to be risked. When Gregor was already sticking halfway out of the bed, the new method was more of a game than an effort. All he had to do was rock back and forth. It occurred to him how simple everything would be if somebody came to help him. Two strong people, he had his father and the maid in mind, would have been more than enough. They would only have to push other arms under the dome of his back, feel, peel him away from the bed, bend down with the load, and then patient and carefully as he was swung over onto the floor, when hopefully the little legs would find a use. Should he really call for help though? Even apart from the fact that all the doors were locked. Despite all the difficulty he was in, he could not suppress a smile as this thought. After a while, he had already moved so far across that it would have been hard for him to keep his balance if he rocked too hard. The time was now 7:10, and he would have to make a final decision very soon. Then there was a ring at the door of the flat. That will be somebody from work, he said to himself, and froze very still, although his little legs only became all the more lively as they danced around. For a moment everything remained quiet. They are not opening the door, Gregor said to himself, caught in some nonsensical hope. But then, of course, the maid's firm steps went to the door as ever and opened it. Gregor only needed to hear the visitor's first word of greeting, and he knew who it was, the chief clerk himself. Why did Gregor have to be the only one condemned to work for a company where they immediately become highly suspicious at the slightest shortcoming? Were all employees, every one of them louts, was there not one of them who was faithfully and devoted, who would go so mad with pangs of conscience that he couldn't get out of bed if he didn't spend at least a couple of hours in the morning on company business? Was it really not enough to let one of the trainee make inquiries, assuming inquiries were even necessary? Did the chief clerk have to come himself? And did they have to show the whole innocent family that this was so suspicious that only the chief clerk could be trusted to have the wisdom to investigate it? And more because these thoughts had made him upset than through any proper decision. He swung himself with all his force out of the bed. There was a loud thump, but it wasn't really a loud noise. His fall was softened and little by the carpet. Gregor's back was also more elastic than he had thought, which made the sound muffled and not too noticeable. He had not held his head carefully enough, though, and hit it as he fell, annoyed and in pain. He turned it and rubbed it against the carpet. Something's fallen down in there, said the chief clerk in the room on the left. Crocker tried to imagine whether something of the sort that had happened to him today could ever happen to the chief clerk too. You had to concern that it was possible. But as if in gruff reply to this question, the chief clerk's firm footsteps in his highly polished boots could now be heard in the adjoining room. From the room on his right, Gregor's sister whispered to him to let him know, Gregor, the chief clerk is here. Yes, I know, said Gregor to himself, but without daring to raise his voice loud enough for his sister to hear him. Gregor said, his father now from the room to his left, the chief clerk has come round and wants to know why you didn't leave on the early train. We don't know what to say to him, and anyway, he wants to speak to you personally. So please open up this door. I am sure he will be good enough to forgive the untidiness of your room. Then the chief clerk called, Good morning, Mr. Samsam. He isn't well, said his mother to the chief clerk, while his father continued to speak through the door. He isn't well, please believe me. Why else would Gregor have missed a train? The late only ever thinks about the business. It nearly makes me cross the way. He never goes out in the evenings. He's been in town for a week now, but stayed home every evening. He sits with us in the kitchen and just reads the paper or studies train timetables. His idea of relaxation is working with his frit straw. He has made a little frame, for instance. It only took him 2 or 3 evenings. You will be amazed how nice it is. It's hanging up in his room. You will see it as soon as Gregor opens the door. Anyway, I am glad you are here. We wouldn't have been able to get Gregors to open the door by ourselves. He is so stubborn, and I'm sure he isn't well. He said this morning that he is, but he isn't. I will be there in a moment, said Gregor, slowly and thoughtfully, but without moving so that he would so not miss any word of the conversation. Well, I can't think of any other way of explaining it, Mrs. Samsam, said the chief clerk. I hope it's not nothing serious. But on the other hand, I must say that if a pupil in commerce ever becoming slightly unwell, then unfortunately, as you like, we simply have to overcome it because of business considerations. Can the chief clerk come in to see you now then? Asked his father impatiently, knocking the door again. No, said Gregor. In the room on his right, there followed a painful silence in the room on his left. His sister began to cry. So, why did his sister not go and join the others? She had probably only just got up and had not even begun to get dressed. And why was she crying? Was it because he had not got up and had not let the chief clerk in because he was in danger of losing his job? And if that happened, his boss would once more purpose their parents with the same demand as before. There was no need to worry about things like that yet. Gregor was still there and had not the slightest intention of abandoning his family. For the time being, he just lay there on the carpet, and no one who knew the condition he was in would seriously have expected him to let the chief clerk in. It was only a minor discourtesy, and a suitable excuses could easily be found for it later on. It was not something for which Gregor could be sacked on the spot, and it seemed to Gregor much more sensible to leave him now a peace instead of disturbing him with talking at him and crying. But the others didn't know what was happening. They were worried that would excuse their behavior. The chief clerk now raised his voice, Miss Samsa. He called to him, what is wrong? You barricade yourself in your room. Give us no more than yes or no for an answer. You are causing serious and unnecessary concern to your parents and you fail. And I mentioned just by the way, you fail to carry out your business duties in a way that is quite unheard of. I am speaking here on behalf of your parents and of your employer, and really must request a clear and immediate explanation. I am astonished, quite astonished. I thought I knew you as a calm and sensible person, and now you suddenly seem to be showing off with peculiar whims. This morning, your employer did suggest a possible reason for your failure to appear. It's true. It had to do with the money that was recently entrusted to you. But I came near to giving him my words of honor that that could not be the right explanation. But now I see your incomprehensible stubbornness. I no longer feel any wish whatsoever to intercede on your behalf, and nor at your position that all secure. I had originally intended to say all this to you in private, but since you caused me to waste my time here for no good reason, I don't see why your parents should not also learn of it. Your turnover had been very unsatisfactory of late. I grant you that it's not the time of year to do specially good business. We recognize that. But there simply is no time of year to do no business at all. Miss Samsa, we cannot allow there to be. But, sir, called Gregor. Beside himself and forgetting all else in the excitement, I will open up immediately, just a moment. I am slightly unwell as attack of dizziness. I haven't been able to get up. I am still in bed now. I am quite fresh again now, though I am just getting out of bed. Just a movement. Be patient. It's not quite as easy as I had thought. I am quite alright now, though. It's shocking what can suddenly happen to a person. I was quite alright last night. My parents know about it, perhaps better than me. I had a small symptom of it last night already. They must have noticed it. I don't know why I didn't let you know at work, but you always think you can get over an illness without staying at home. Please, don't make my parents suffer. There is no basis for any of the accusation you are making. Nobody ever said a word to me about any of these things. Maybe you haven't read the latest contact I sent it. I'll send off with the 8 o'clock train as well. These few hours of rest have given me strength. You don't need to wait, sir. I will be in office soon after you, and please to be good as to tell that to the boss and recommend it to him. To be continued in next video.